Happy New Year and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Thursday, January 4th, 2024. It's my oldest sister's birthday and this is episode 275. I realized while I was doing show notes that I may even get to 300 this year. Anyway, my name's Carol. I am known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry and I live east of Vancouver in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada, where we have had sun kind of dipping in and out between some really dark, ugly clouds out there. So you may see the light shift quite a bit during this episode. I hope everyone is doing well, that you had a happy and festive holiday season, and that you are settling well into the new year. Still seems strange to think that it's 2024. Didn't seem that long ago that we were getting all excited about the year 2000, but I'm kind of dating myself there. In any case, normally I find January a chance to just go, kind of relax, kind of tuck in home, do lots of crafting. But this year's been a little bit different because we are leaving for a trip in less than a week, and a lot of my time and attention lately has been taken up getting ready for that. Even so, I do have some knitting to show you today, including a finished project. But before I do, I have some winners to announce. I have the final winner for the Another Year of Stash make-along, which was a year-long make-along that took place in the A Stitch in Time podcast Ravelry group last year. So December's posts were 1556 to 1714. Random number generator chose 1622, and that is DMB714, who is Donna from New Brunswick, Canada. So congratulations, Donna. And then I also have the winner from the November Yarn of the Month Club make-along. There were 14 finished projects. Random number generator chose number 8. That is Try Linda, who is Linda from Pennsylvania. So congratulations also to you, Linda. Both Donna and Linda have won up to $20 US in patterns that are giftable on Ravelry. Let me know your choices as soon as you can, and I will get those out to you very quickly. Time is of the essence because, as I mentioned, I'm leaving next week and I don't know what my internet situation is going to be like. So if possible, I'd love to get those out to you before I go away. If not, you might end up having to wait until I get home. So congratulations to both winners, and thank you to everyone who took part in the make-alongs last year. We have some new make-alongs that are now on the go, and I am really excited about them. So once again, we're going to concentrate on working from our stash, from stashed yarn, patterns, and fiber. And there will be another year-long chatter thread for that called Smash the Stash. And it will work more or less the same as the last 2 years stash down make-alongs have worked. Except that this year I'm only going to be awarding prizes for that one quarterly. So the first winner will be announced the first regular episode in April. It's super easy to participate, very low key. Just be sure, if you're interested, read the first post of that thread, and that outlines all the rules and guidelines. And then this year, instead of having some monthly make-alongs, we're going to have quarterly make-alongs. And the first of those is Sweater Weather, which will concentrate on making large or full-sized, that's not the right word, major garments. struggle with how to describe it. In other words, we're not talking about hats, scarves, mitts, and socks and shawls. That will come later in the year. This is concentrating on things like sweaters, ponchos, skirts, dresses, if you have the fortitude for that. Major garments. They can be range anywhere from baby to adult, but they must be comprised of at least 50 yards of yarn. You can knit, crochet, or weave, and in this quarter you may do whips or works in progress, as long as you have your garment less than 50% completed. All the rules and guidelines for that are also in the first post of that thread. I urge you to read that so you can make sure that you're doing everything right so that your project qualifies. One thing I did put in the rules is that you should have separate posts for each of your projects, both starting and finishing. I'm not going to be so picky on the starting. There are a few people who have put in one post with several of their projects in it. That's no big deal, but when you go to finish your project, make sure you do separate FO posts for them, because each of those posts will be a qualifying entry into your chance to win a prize. So if you put them all in one post, you only get one shot at it, even though maybe you've finished 3 garments. And just take special note of your starting post, because you need to list it in your finishing post. And that way I can go back to the chatter thread and just verify that it is indeed a qualifying project. So please do take a few minutes, just familiarize yourself with all of those rules and guidelines. I'm really excited to see already quite a bit of participation in that, and I look forward to seeing what you're going to make this year. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say about that. I feel like there's something back here, but I don't have it written down. So hopefully, if I think of it, it'll pop in before the end of the episode. Seriously though, everything you need to participate should be in those first threads in each of the posts, or each of the first posts in each of those threads. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. All right, I have a finished project, if you can believe it. My first finished project of the year is this pair of socks. I actually finished them on New Year's Day. We had lots of car time that day. We were taking my mom home, and so I took these along with me to work on in the car. And I got all the way to the end of the toes in the car, and then I did the Kitchener stitch once I got home. It was easier to see. So I'm calling these my vintage tinsel socks. They are knit from West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply Sparkle in the vintage tinsel colorway. And these are my usual top-down plain vanilla sock, 2x2 ribs, 64 stitches on a 2mm needle, and I did a traditional heel flap and gusset. And they ended up almost identical, except you can see that this one has a little bit of green on the toe. It's just the way the yarn ended up. I was very pleased to be able to make these socks without a break in the striping pattern. I ended up doing a 34-row heel flap instead of a 32-row heel flap in order to make that happen. So yeah, I kind of did the 32-row, and then as I started to pick up the stitches for the gusset, I realized I was going to end up with just like one little, few stitches in the, I guess it would be the blue. Didn't like the way it looked, and so I took it back and redid my heel, and obviously did the same here. So Now that these are washed and blocked, I will tuck them away and wear them this coming December when I pull out all of my Christmas and winter themed socks. So enjoyed knitting these very much. They were a great pair of socks to work on throughout December, and I was really happy to finish them up at the beginning of the year so I can turn my attention to another new pair of socks, which I'll talk about in a minute. Throughout December, I also worked on my blanket of cheer. So I didn't bring a sample block to show you. If you're new, you can refer to my show notes, which will be below. When I say below, if you're on YouTube, there's a little thing that says more with, I think it's 3 dots beside it. Click on that. It expands the heading, and then you can see all the show notes there with links to my Ravelry project pages. I also have links to the blog and to the Ravelry group. I was going to say the Ravelry group on Ravelry. No, the A Stitch in Time podcast group on Ravelry. And I do also post my episodes and show notes there. So there's lots of ways that you can watch. So anyway, my blanket of cheer is a miter square blanket that I am making with last year's, well, when I say last year, I actually made 2022's holiday countdown collection from Fiber Nymph Dye Works, and I am making little mitered squares, and then I am combining them with self-striping yarns from Fiber Nymph Dye Works, and then I'm making blocks which will all get sewn together when I'm all done. So this year I systematically went through from numbers 1 through 24, although I haven't got to 24 yet, and I've been knitting them, knitting up my 20-gram minis into miter squares. So in some cases, like this one, I'd already knit 2 little mitered squares out of it for a block, so I only had to knit 2 of them, and then I've been putting the leftovers in some scrappy socks, which I'll show you in a minute. So here's some of the latest colors that I've been working on. Brown, this gorgeous dark plummy color, this gold. I love this jade green. And then you can see here all the ones I've been accumulating throughout December. And here is my current one. So I'm doing these on 3mm needles. So there's my latest square in progress. I've already knit 2 out of this, so this is all I've got left. So I'll have enough for this one and another, and then put the rest in my scrappy socks. I end up with about 2 to 3 grams when all is said and done, which gives me an average of 6 rounds in my scrappy socks. Sometimes I get 5, sometimes I get 7, but most often 6. Funny or not so funny story about these needles. If you've been reading in the Ravelry group, you will know what happened. So I took my vintage tinsel socks, and as I mentioned, I finished them. And as I was packing my knitting in the morning before we left, I thought, I don't know if those socks are going to get me all the way home. I have a feeling I'm going to finish them, so I should take my blanket of cheer to work on and my scrappy socks. And so I put, I think it was this yarn, can't remember. Anyway, I had a square on the go. I think I had enough to do another one, and I threw that one in too, just in case. Like, I was prepared to have knitting from the time I left home to the time I came home. And I finished up my socks. I went to grab my mitered square, and I could only find 1 needle. And so I had put it in, I put them in this bag. Whoops, my sock's falling out here. So I had put it in this bag where I keep my scrappy Advent socks. And when I put them in like this, I realized like when I had done in my bag that it would be easy for one of these needles to fall out. And I know what happened is I had left the house, I let my mom in the car, and I threw my 2 project bags on my car seat, and then I ran back in the house to go to the bathroom one more time. And when I came back, I just took them off my seat and down by my feet, and that was that. So all I could think of is either that one of the, like only one needle could have come out because the other one had knitting on it. So I thought that this might have slipped out, gone in between the seats or under the seat, or maybe when we got out at a rest stop or at my mom's house, or we had driven out to the cabins, like somewhere I thought maybe it had fallen out of the car. When we got home, we looked in the car, we looked under floor mats, like we just could not find this needle. So I thought, okay, well, I can't work on this till I get another one. I don't have another 3mm like this. And then a little later that evening, I don't even know what made me do it. Because when I came home, I looked right away on the couch where I sit to see if I had left it behind. It was nowhere to be seen, and I even kind of looked in between some of the couch cushions and I couldn't find it. So I was just figured it was lost. And I don't know, I was sitting there and for some reason I just put my hand down between the armrest and the seat cushion, and what should I find but this needle. So it never did come with me in the first place. So I couldn't have knit on, well, obviously I could have knit on it if I didn't have it, but I was relieved to see that I didn't lose it. Anyway, that's a very long story, but I was happy that I did not have to go and buy a new set of needles, because I picked these up, I think, just like in the fall to work on this specific, oh no, I guess that's not true. No, I guess I bought it whenever I decided to. It doesn't matter. I didn't want to buy another set of needles. You can understand that. Anyway, so that's how my blanket of cheer's coming along. I'm just going to do a quick count and see what number I'm on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, that's number 16. So out of 24, that's not too bad. I feel pretty good about that. So here, joined by that much yarn. See, that's just all I've got left over after doing those 4 mitered squares. Here are my scrappy Advent socks. I'll put it that way so the yarn doesn't have to stretch so fast. So those are coming along very nicely. This is color 10, which I decided not to put into my blanket because it was very similar to the natural plain vanilla border that I was doing. So I decided to do that for heels, toes, and cuffs, and then I did end up putting a stripe in where it belongs in the color sequence. So this is the order in which I opened my Advents last year with color 1, and currently, is this 10? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, so this is actually color 16 that I'm working on now. Did I say that? I can't remember. I'm a little discombobulated, can you tell? Anyway, it's kind of fun seeing them all together, and I'm still loving this project. I don't know what it is about mitered squares. I never get tired of knitting them, even though it's pretty repetitive, and plain socks, same thing. And especially like something like this with being a scrappy sock, you know, it doesn't take any time at all to knit, you know, approximately 6 rounds, and you just see them grow, and I just really, really love those kinds of projects where normally I am not big on knitting the same thing over and over, but this is an exception. And finally, I have a sweater to show you. If you watched my 2023 year in review and my 2024 preview or plans, you will know that even though I can't officially take part in the make-alongs because I can't win a prize, I am organizing my projects for the year around the themes of the make-alongs, so that while you're knitting sweaters, I'm knitting sweaters. While you're knitting accessories, I'm knitting accessories. So the first thing I wanted to do is get back to my Killer Queen pullover by Marianarella of Lyrical Knits, which I'm knitting out of these two yarns. They are both Cascade 220 Superwash. This is color 880 Marionberry, which looks very dark and not quite right in this light. And then this, I think, is a discontinued yarn, which is too bad because I really think it's pretty. This is the 220 Superwash Effects yarn, and this is color 10 Lightning Storm. And I've actually done a fair bit on this since the last time. Last time I showed it to you, I had finished the entire body. So I've got a hair that's curled around and poking me in the eye here. I'd finished the whole body and I was on the first sleeve. So I have now finished the first sleeve. The only thing I haven't done is the bind off because I'm doing, I forget what it's called, something like the Italian sewn bind off. It's a sewn bind off anyway. It looks a lot like, kind of like, it looks like a tubular bind off. I don't know if it's the same or just similar, but I got to this part. I finished this much this morning. Started the cuff last night, finished it this morning, and so now all I'm gonna have to do is bind off that sleeve and begin the next one. So I'll maybe just stand up a little or stand up a little. How do you stand up a little? I'll stand up so you can see this more or less in its entirety. This has been a really fun project. Sleeves have been, you know, not a problem because you're constantly changing stitch patterns. You know, it makes it interesting, makes it go pretty fast. So, loving this, looking forward to finishing it up. I would love to finish this before we go away. I don't know if that's gonna happen. So, cross fingers, wish me luck. I do get knitting time. I always knit first thing in the morning and last thing in the evening. So there's a chance. We'll see. I do not know what I'm going to take with me to work on the plane and while I'm away. I don't anticipate a lot of knitting time while I'm actually away, but certainly on the plane because we've got some long flights, but we'll see. One thing I will take with me is my first pair of socks for 2024. This is the first skein out of my personal sock yarn club for the year. I'm going to continue to do that for myself this year. If you happen to be new, first of all, welcome. Second of all, a couple of years ago, I did a personal sock yarn club make-along where every month we knit a pair of socks from yarn that we had tucked away over the year or at the beginning of the year. I did it again last year. I think I knit 9 or 10 out of the 12. This year I have done it again. But this year I chose 12 skeins of yarn. I decided which month I wanted to knit them in, and then I put them in paper bags with the month on it. So I'll still be surprised when I open it up because I know I won't remember, you know, 10 months from now which yarn is in the bag. But I wanted things that were kind of relative to the season, etc. So anyway, blabber, blabber, blabber. This is from Polka Dot Creek. It's one of their sock sets, which is done from a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon base. And this is the sweater weather colorway, which I thought would be appropriate for our sweater weather make along. Not sure how well you're seeing the, that's actually not too bad. I know my light is disappearing out of my window. I do have my ring light on this side. It's kind of getting to be late afternoon. It's 3:45. This came, the sock sets came with, the sock sets come with two 20-gram minis. And this one is spice, this one is spruce. And so I will use those for heels and toes. And I should have enough, I should be able to, I divided my 100 or my main skein in two. I should have enough to make 2 pairs of socks out of this if I sort of use half of this and about half of that. So that's my intention, and I thought I would have to do a toe-up sock for that, but this one I'm just going to knit top down how I prefer, and then the next time I make a pair of socks out of this, I'll go toe up, and then that way I can use all the rest of what's left over. So looking forward to casting those on. Haven't yet decided if it's going to be a plain vanilla sock or if I'm going to have a little bit of patterning in there. Kind of inclined to do some patterning, so we'll see. That's partly why it's not cast on yet. I wound up the yarn yesterday. I'm just not 100% sure what I want to do yet, so that's on hold. Okay, let me see. I have a couple of acquisitions, not yarny acquisitions, but things that will I can use with my knitting. These were Christmas presents. A couple things I asked for from my sister who had my name this year. So one is an over the neck reading light. I will not turn the lights on because they're very bright, but this will be great for knitting in the car. I'm planning to take it on the plane. I can see that being very helpful, not disturbing people. It's been great for reading in bed, so I don't disturb my husband. And yeah, I really like it. So you charge it. It's got like a cable you put in here to charge. It's very comfortable. It's not too heavy, and you can kind of, these bend, so you can kind of direct your light where you need it. When I read in bed, I only actually use one light. That's plenty bright enough, and then that way I can point it away from where my husband is so it doesn't get in his face or anything. But this, I'm so happy to get this. And then I also asked her for a new digital scale. I had a one that I had for years and years that finally gave up the ghost, and I did buy another one, but I feel like it's not as reliable. Sometimes it vacillates between 1 gram and 0, so it makes me wonder just how accurate it is. But I also wanted a scale that had partial grams, because you know what it's like sometimes when you're playing yarn chicken and you weigh something and it's like 47 grams, and you're like, is that 47.1 grams, or is that 47.8 grams, or is that 46.9 grams? And sometimes those partial grams can make a difference. And so this one has partial grams, and so far it's like dead on. It never wavers between numbers and stuff. So it comes with like, there's like a little, they call this a tray, but I guess you could use it. It kind of fits over there, but it also has this bigger tray, which also fits the scale. So I kind of put that on there, this in there, and then that protects it. It's also lighter and smaller than the one I already own. So that'll be nice for traveling too, because, you know, sometimes I want to take a scale with me up to the cabin or whatever. When I need, you know, when I need to know how, when I need to measure, when I need to weigh my yarn. This is also great for cooking. I do use a scale for some baking that I do, so very happy with that. And I see, actually, I had glanced over and I accidentally turned on one of my lights on my over the neck lamp, so that was shining. Okay, I don't know. I feel like I've been nattering and nattering. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to go warm up my tea, calm down a little, and come back and tell you what's been happening in my life since we last spoke. So see you in a minute. So, since my last regular episode, Christmas has come and gone, and we had a very nice holiday season. We found ourselves alone Christmas Eve, which doesn't happen very often. Usually we have family staying with us, or at the very least, family come over in the evening. But it was just Cameron and I, and we spent the day sort of doing some last minute Christmas prep and some housework. And then we just had a very nice quiet evening. And then the next morning, our older son and his wife came over to open presents. We weren't sure if that was going to happen this year. Normally, our younger son also joins us, but he was spending Christmas with his girlfriend's family this year. But I'm glad they decided to come anyway. It was a nice start to the day. And then we all headed over to our daughter and son-in-law's place in the afternoon. Our son-in-law smoked brisket for dinner with all the trimmings, and we got to spend time with the grandkids, and it was just a very nice Christmas. And then the next morning we picked up my mom from my younger sister's place where she had had Christmas dinner and spent the night. And then we headed over to Victoria on Vancouver Island. That's where my husband's from, and he still has some family there. So we stayed with his brother and his wife. And that evening, we all went downtown to have dinner, and then to go see the lights near City Hall, or at City Hall, I should say. And then we walked around that area a little bit before heading home. If I think of it, or if I think this footage is decent enough, I'll put a little bit at the end of this episode. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get over by the harbor to see the lights there. That's where the Empress Hotel is located, fairly famous hotel, and then the British Columbian Legislative Buildings. Victoria's our capital city, so they are there. We did see on TV, on the news, all the lights, but unfortunately didn't see them in person. The next morning we went and visited Cameron's mom, and as I mentioned on my last episode, I wasn't sure how she would be and if she would know my mom. She does have a form of dementia where so far she knows who we all are, but she might not remember that the next day she might not remember that we came to see her the day before. Just her short term is not great. And I don't know if she would have known who my mom was if we hadn't told her. But at one point she was looking at a Christmas card that my mom had mailed to her. And she looked at the card and she looked at my mom and she smiled and she said, "You sent this," or "This is from you. This was from you." And so I knew she'd put the pieces together. So that was really, really nice to see. They hadn't seen each other in quite some time. So we got some pictures of them together and then the four of us together. So those will be nice keepsakes. And then that afternoon, we drove up island. We had lunch at a place on the water, and then went up a little bit further to go visit Cameron's dad's grave. And then drove back into Victoria, and Cameron showed my mom the area where he'd grown up. So we had a nice day, and then got back in time for a lovely turkey dinner. When my sister-in-law found out we were coming, she asked if we would mind if she cooked a turkey dinner. And of course we did not. My brother-in-law is a vegetarian, and so she wasn't going to cook a turkey dinner just for herself. So she was quite happy to have an excuse, and it was delicious. And then we just had a nice evening visiting, and the next morning went out for brunch and then headed to the ferry. The following evening we had a gathering for my side of the family. Last year we began a new tradition. Instead of having Christmas dinner all together, we now have an evening around Christmas where we all bring an appetizer and just have a less formal gathering, and that seems to have worked out really well. Unfortunately, we had a number of people absent because of illness. Nobody seriously ill, but sick enough that they either didn't want to spread their germs or didn't feel like coming. So that was too bad. Definitely a missed opportunity for my mom to see certain people. But well, I guess for all of us to see certain people, but my mom in particular would have liked to have seen some of her grandchildren and their children, but just the way it was. This is Carol from the future popping in. I had forgotten, with everything else going on over the holidays, to mention that our daughter-in-law and our younger granddaughter share a birthday on December 30th. And we had quite a good day with our granddaughter this year. So it started off with our daughter treating both me and our granddaughter to pedicures. So the three of us got our pedicure. Felt quite pampered. I'd forgotten how nice it was to have someone else do your nails. And our daughter-in-law was invited, of course, but she wasn't able to come. So we did that, and then my husband met us over at the mall. And last year we had taken our granddaughter shopping, and she requested that we do that again. So she had some money to spend from Christmas and her birthday and some gift cards. And so my husband and I took her around the mall and helped her spend some of her money, and then took her for lunch and took her home. So it was quite a nice way to spend time with her and celebrate her birthday. Now back to what else was happening over the holidays. And then New Year's Eve was also pretty quiet. It was actually nice not to have any really big plans. I spent part of the day doing some frogging. I decided I really wanted to start the new year with only current projects. And so I started ripping apart projects. And that evening I was especially grateful for some help from my mom and Cameron, because there were a couple things that were more complicated to rip out because they had multiple skeins of yarn going on at the same time. My ranunculus was the worst, because not only did it have two yarns being knit together, I had alternated skeins, and so I had 4 balls of yarn going. But we eventually got that all pulled apart. The only thing I did not end up frogging was my Berry Beautiful shawl, which is a lace weight lace stole I had started, I think it was 2007 or 2009, somewhere around there. And it's almost half done. It has teeny tiny needles. I don't know if I'm ever going to finish it, but I decided to just leave it for now, and I tucked it away out of sight. I also took it off of the top of my Ravelry projects page, and so it's just having a nice comfortable hibernation somewhere. I can't even remember where I put it, to be honest, probably in my trunk, but it's now sort of out of sight, out of mind. I've never done that before. I've never, to my recollection, hibernated Ravelry projects before, but I decided to do that, and what a great feeling to know that everything I'm looking at on my Ravelry projects page is all current. It's all works in progress. I have a couple of things that are finished that just need finished project pictures, but everything I look at is active, or at least waiting till later this year to be worked on. And it is a great feeling. I don't know why I've never done that before. Probably because I feel like I'm giving up on it if I do that. I also have a blanket that I didn't talk about in my Finnish or frog episode. I can't remember, it's something quilt. I'll put it down here. And it's big squares, blocks that you knit and sew together. And it's out of fingering weight yarn. I started it years ago. And I'm not gonna like frog the squares I've done. I just don't know if I'll ever complete it. And so I did the same thing with that one. So yeah, everything on my project page is now current and it feels fantastic. Let's see what else. So New Year's Day, as I mentioned, we got up early and drove my mom home. There was like, when we left, there was like no traffic. It was just, couldn't believe it. I've never seen that road so quiet, I think. And it's a major highway that we travel the whole way. But it made for an easy trip. We drove right out to the cabins, just kind of looked around there a little bit, and then back to town. We had packed lunch, and so we had lunch, and then we headed back home again. So I think we were home, I think by around 4 o'clock or so. And we decided just to go down to the pub for dinner that evening. So that was a nice way to spend New Year's Day, finish off the holidays, all of that, because Cameron had to go back to work the next morning. And then I had my younger granddaughter here for a couple of days for babysitting while her mom and dad were working. And so it was sort of back to real life come Tuesday morning. So in between all of that, we have been preparing for our upcoming trip. For those of you who may be new, first of all, welcome. My husband and I are going on a South American cruise. We are flying to Buenos Aires, boarding a cruise ship there, and then we have a couple of stops in Uruguay, and then I think 5 stops in Brazil before flying home from Rio de Janeiro. And this is a working holiday for us. It's my husband's company does incentive trips for their customers, usually every 2 years. And we've been fortunate enough to go along as hosts for many of them. And that just entails, mingling with customers, and then we host a table of customers for dinner every night. I remember the first time, which was about 25 years ago, being very nervous, but I have found that you can almost always find something in common to talk about, even if you're meeting with strangers. And I think over all these years, we've only had 2 dinners that were a bit of a struggle. Most of the time they are quite pleasant, and we've met some wonderful people over the years, have developed friendships with a number of people, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some of them again next week. So we've just been, figuring out what clothes we're going to take, and making sure they're clean and all that. And then we also had to put together costumes for an 80s party. So luckily we found some perfect things on Amazon. So we're gonna look a little ridiculous. Like I said to people, we lived through the 80s and nobody I know ever dressed like this, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm sure I'll have some pictures when we get back to share with you. So yeah, just things like that. And then there's been a bit of stress over obtaining a Brazilian visa. And I guess, I think it was December 1st Brazil decided to reinstate the need for a visa for the United States, Canada, and Australia. And from what I understand, the reasons are rather political, and it's because they want those countries to end the need for Brazilians to have a visa to enter these countries. And so it goes into effect January 10th, which is the day that we leave. And so there's been quite a lot of hassle over applying for this visa. You have to have certain documents, and they have to be a certain size. They can't be over a megabyte, and you needed a photograph that had to be like a certain number of pixels. So if you are not technologically fluent, it can be rather difficult. But shortly before I sat down to record, and this is my something good, apparently the Brazilian government has now postponed the need for a visa to, I think it was April 10th, which means that we don't have to worry about it anymore. My husband phoned and he said, I've just sent you an email, and it's a good email. So I opened it, and at the very top of it was all this clip art of people like cheering, yay! And then it had that news. So that has been just a nightmare, as you can imagine, for my husband's company, for their travel agency that they deal with, for the cruise ship, for everybody. I just don't think the Brazilian government was prepared for the administration of these visas, and so I don't think they've been able to keep up, and whatever reason they've decided to postpone it, what a load off everybody's mind. Now I can just pack, because I've been doing things, and in the back of my mind I'm thinking, are we even going to be able to go? Time's a ticking. But yes, we are going. So yay. Very, very happy about that. So a couple of housekeeping things. So because I'm going to be gone, there will not be a regular episode until sometime in late January after I return. And unfortunately, I was not able to record any more episodes of sock season. Just haven't had the time or opportunity, and so those also will not be resuming until late January, maybe the first week in February. TBD, to be determined. Thanks so much, though, for all your kind comments on the episodes that I have put out. A lot of you seem to enjoy them, and it's been really fun for me to go and revisit some of these pairs of socks, especially the ones that I knit like ages and ages ago. And yes, I have been wearing all of my socks that I've been showing you. And so I have 2 pairs. I'm looking at them over there. A couple more pairs laid out for this week. And then I guess I'm not really going to need a whole lot of socks where I'm going, because it's summer there. Anyway, that is it for this first episode of 2024. Happy New Year, everyone. I really look forward to knitting and making along with you in this coming year. Thanks so much for your support in the last year, and for your upcoming support that I know you will give me. You guys are just the best, and I really appreciate you watching and your interaction, whether it be a YouTube comment or participation in the make-alongs or private message. I just so enjoy that engagement. So thank you for that. So take care. I'll see you in a few weeks. By the way, that of course means that the I will not be, because my internet situation is sketchy or unknown at this time, I will probably not be answering comments and things on the make-alongs, but I'll catch up when I get back. So yes, take care. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a few weeks. Bye for now.